Here we go. And the man himself, David Danto. Let me
Oh no, this is not my section. This is Mr. Neto's section. And remember, you got to do the magic to kind of stick yourself in that box, David.
Let's see. Let me join.
There you go. Yeah, you got to kind of shift over down the bottom. This conversation.
So Chris, in that case, let me hand off to our resident influencer. He doesn't like to be called an influencer, but we all know he is. Chris, the man. Thanks for being here.
How are you, sir? How's everything? And I'll tell you what, if your Let's Do Video crew is not talking about hair products at some given point, you're doing it wrong. Because, geez, dude, every time we connect, it gets longer and longer. It's nice. We appreciate the flowing locks.
You know, like Mr. Two things that this terrible year, two good things have happened in 2020. One is that collaboration technology has reached a stage of readiness that it was there to help us and lessen our pain. And the other is the normalization of old people having neon colored hair. Those are the only two good things in 2020. The rest has just been a terrible mess.
You know what, David? I'm going to disagree with that. I'm going to say that the pendulum has swung too far. We're all stuck at home. We're all stuck remotely, and everybody knows that. And we know that, we'd like to get out and see people and be social again. But we finally have gotten the world to believe through all of this pain and all this crisis that you don't need to commute for an hour and a half to go someplace to sit down and do individual work. I think that realization is almost worth all of the pain. Because when we come out of this, we realize that I can be as productive, even more productive. And the studies are showing people putting in more hours when they're working by themselves at their desks remotely at home or while traveling or wherever they are, which is going to forever change the nature of the office. The office is no longer going to be a place that we go to do individual work. It's going to be a place where we go to do social work, to brainstorm, to meet, to celebrate. I think that's the biggest transition that we're talking about post-pandemic here, that the offices will be smaller, like our panelists are talking about, and rooms will be different, but it's no longer going to be a place to go to sit down at a computer or at a phone. That's not its purpose anymore.
Well, and something else this is actually kind of brought up, and if I mentioned it in the chat, that this has also exposed certain failings in some of our countries when it comes to certain parts of connectivity, right? Certain parts of our infrastructure, and I live in St. Louis. There are parts of St. Louis, the more affluent parts have great connectivity. They have fiber. Some don't, right? Because it's not economically viable according to the businesses. And so this is also, it kind of exposed some shortcomings that we have from an infrastructure standpoint that we're also going to have to address post-COVID, that we're going to have to make sure that, the internet is a utility at this point. It's not just, it is absolutely necessary to not only connect on an everyday life, but also to do your job or to get a job, right? And I think that's something that we as, here in the States, we're gonna have to address, after, possibly after this next election.
Chris, all yours.
Oh, thank you. I mean, whose idea was to bring me into a room full of alpha males at this point? Because every single one of you guys are either a host or a podcast host. Thank you so much for the opportunity to get a word in, Mr. Danto. Appreciate that. And thank you all. People that have joined us on the chat and are on YouTube, we are watching, we are monitoring, we are looking at what you're saying and doing, because we will answer those questions if they pop up. In the meantime, there are some characters here on this chat that have not spoken today. Mr. Fluster already has. Tim Albright has. David Danto won't stop talking unless we mute him. So, Mr. Talbot, would you like to introduce yourself and who you are and where you're from and what you do?
Oh yeah, so Kev Talbot, involved. We are an integrator, also host of AV Jam. If any of you've been crazy enough to watch it, then thanks.
Awesome. And that's Jason Ward. So let's move on to the next. Go ahead, Jason. Jason, introduce yourself.
Doing the AV Jam thing with those two, doing the involved thing with those two. They've done it for me, right? Thanks, Chris.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we have a celebrity panel here of all sorts of people from the manufacturer side, the analyst side, the media personality, and Mr. Albright, the YouTube star, and Mr. Fluster, and obviously the guy who loves to play the villain in every chat that we have, Mr. David Danto. So thank you all for taking time to play the bad guy. Well, Mr. Danto can play the bad guy. One of the things that keeps coming up in all the previous conversations, I love listening to analysts because they're much smarter than I am. And a lot of the things that they're doing what is, when they start going on the conversation of culture, I think culture is something that we, as technology people or integrators, kind of forget that on our own practice, right? So what I would love to ask one of you guys, anybody here in this chat right now, what does right now your routine look like as a work from home person? And I guess I want to go to the AV Jam guys because they're the only ones that really have the office that they go into. So what does, for example, Kev, what does your routine consist of now as a full-time work from home, not going anywhere person in lockdown?
So for me, it's slightly different because unless I was out on a customer site, I was here anyway. I weren't out as much as the other two guys. They're normally the ones always in front of the customers. I'm sat in here designing most days. But the biggest difference for me is the guys being at home more. So whereas I used to know exactly what was coming up what day during the week, because I knew Noel was out doing whatever on Monday, he was going to give me something on Tuesday. That disappeared overnight for a lot of our guys. So instead of then me having a quick chat with them, and really my normal conversation was being with my team, now I've got the account managers a lot more. And where they want a quick chat, or where they did want a quick chat, that doesn't exist anymore. So in all fairness, I've noticed account managers are more needy. That's the big thing that's up to me. But I think it's because they're more fuming than I am, that they can't be out on the road. So for me, not a lot of difference, but a lot more video time.
No, I'll give you the opportunity to rebut that because obviously you were somebody who spent a lot of time on the road. So is your work life different from 6 months ago? How much has it changed, and how needy are you to Mr. Talbot?
I'm a sales guy, so I am 110% needy all the time, right? And it's just more so now. Sales and customers are all the same. They want everything immediately. So the longer it takes Kev to do something, if we're asking for it, the worse it gets. And you just keep banging and banging and banging. So I imagine I'm probably like his wife at some point to this and just chasing him around all the time. I don't think that's going to change, right? When we start to go back, I'm still going to chase him because I know he can do it quick now. There's no hiding.
That's awesome. So, and Jason, you kind of, would it be safe to say that you have like you're a person of authority involved, maybe over Noel or Kev? Is that fair to say, or am I kicking a bee's nest over by saying that?
Yeah, I'm a director of the business, but to quote Noel, I'm a salesman. I'm a salesman. Well, I started off in engineering, but moved to sales because I wasn't clever enough. So what I found is the reason you choose sales as your given career, and Noel's the same, and we've often compared notes on this, is spending 5 days a week in this chair talking to that screen. I wasn't cut out for this. And that, without getting too serious and sober, Chris, it's starting to knock your mental health a little bit. The being in one place all the time gets a bit hard. Now there's the R rate's down. I'm forcing myself to get out just for my well-being up here.
Well, for our well-being, you are wearing a nice shirt and a very good band. So thank you, sir, for at least representing that and keeping your wits together for that. But the reason why I went to you is I wanted to ask a question regarding work-life balance, because obviously you got two of your guys here with you. Is there such a thing now as work-life balance? The reason why I'm asking this question is recently on even on LinkedIn, I found an article that was comparing now that work-life balance has transitioned to work-life integration. Do you agree with that? Meaning, there's not just a get up and do a 9 to 5. Now it's get up and I'm sure at first, like many of us here from the work-life situation, from a work-life balance and just work mode, you get up at 7, you probably worked most of the day, 5 o'clock. It wasn't a 9 to 5 job. You maybe took an hour for lunch and then you came back and then you checked emails after dinner possibly. Do you see now work-life balance getting all kind of kludgy and now becoming more like you're now working in your life and it's just integrating parts of your work into your day? Is that a fair statement? What are your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, I completely.
But you still try and find the boundaries between the two. Sorry, David, carry on as well. I'd love to hear you.
Oh yeah, I think it's just a great thing. It used to be that a third of our day was miserable. It was someone else's time doing someone else's stuff that we didn't care about. I show up 9 to 5 and I look busy. and I do enough that I don't get fired, and I hate my job, and I'm happy because my boss isn't too mean. And then I go home, and that's when my life starts. And that's just not natural. It's not normal. Work shouldn't be something that we suffer through. We should find work. It doesn't, and not everyone's going to get a job that they love. I know that's the dream, but we get a job that has some projects that we find interesting. And throughout the day, you just do your projects. And maybe one project is, oh, I got to edit this podcast for my business. And another project is, I want to set up the new table in the living room. And another project is, I got to clean out the kitty litter. And another project is, I got to do this proposal for work. And they're all things that I have to do, and some that I like doing, and I just do them throughout the day. And you feel so much freer then, because sometimes 2 a.m, that's when an idea strikes and you want to work. And if you're being paid 9 to 5, I am not giving you my 2 a.m. time for free. You're not paying me for that. So I wind up working when I'm not inspired, and I wind up not working when I am inspired, and I wind up not being free to do what I want. It's a really wonderful, healthy thing to take a walk after lunch. And you can't do that if you're 9 to 5 unless you cut half your lunch. But if you're free, you could take a 3-hour walk after lunch, and maybe you might have to work late that night, but it's your life. It's all your life. It's not your time and their time. It's just you doing your stuff. And I'm happy
David,
that way.
I think there are 2 critical points here that we look at the first section that Neil moderated, and we look at the section that Tim moderated, and both of them were all around these points, but nobody actually made them dead on. We're in 2 transitions now that need to take place, and I'm speaking as a guy who's worked remotely for nearly 2 decades at this point. The first one is we are now transitioning from a knowledge worker standpoint from an hours worked position to an output position. We are no longer going to be judged by how much time we put in at a desk, wherever that desk is. What's your job? Is it your job to bring in 14 clients? Fine. Did you bring in 14 clients? I don't care if it was 2 a.m, 3 p.m. Did you get your reports done? I don't care. So now we're now going to judge employees when the managers come up to the skill levels, and there are managers who managed remote employees before. We're going to judge them by what they've done, not where they are. And that's tremendously freeing. The other thing that's more physical than esoteric is from a guy who's worked remotely for a long time. You're looking at, this is my signature office. This is where I go to work. When I am at work, I come down here to this spot. I have a spot. I'm lucky. Not everybody has had that at home because not everybody's been doing it as long as I am. But when I don't feel like working, I get up and go somewhere else. I'll still answer my mobile phone. I'll still answer an email or a text. I'll be there for my colleagues. But mentally, I know when I'm down here, I'm focused on work. And when I'm not here, I'm not focused on work. And that kind of takes the edge off of this idea that we're all stuck working from home, because it's still a place mentally for me to go. And, my wife, my kids, my cats, they all know that when I'm down here, leave me alone, I'm working. So it's when you can build those barriers and be judged by your output, not by your hours, it's going to be a tremendously freeing experience for everybody. It will grate on people, like Jason said. You'll be able to have this work-life balance. It just works at that point.
Couldn't we adjust into sorry, Kev. Couldn't we adjust the at work experience, the office experience, to kind of mimic that? Maldo made a good point. When you're 9 to 5, you can't just get up and take a walk. Why not? Like, why can't that be the new company culture? Why can't we evolve as a working culture to say, you know what, if you need to be in the office, let's treat it like working from home. If you need to go take an hour break and go walk or go exercise in the middle of the day, we're not going to dock you for, being gone for lunch for, 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it is. Why can't we evolve into a system where, work is whether it's in a physical office or at home, is as healthy and freeing, both places.
I think it's also freeing as, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's a business thing. I had, funnily enough, a cracking chat with somebody on Facebook the other day, never met him. And it's a local group for our town. And one of the guys was on there, they were talking about the local council selling off buildings, and they were looking at more remote working. And there was this guy on there, and he is absolutely adamant that work from home can never work. People have to be in the office because they've got to be there 9 to 5. They've got to be monitored. You can't trust anybody. And if you're working from home, therefore you now don't adhere to business process, and you make whatever decision you want. And that's the biggest thing that I'm noticing. There is still businesses out there that can't see past that. people at home, all of us on this call have the benefit, we can say this for years, we're at home, we are a lot more productive at home than probably in the office for a lot of us. But there are still a lot of users out there and a lot of business out there that just don't see that. They don't know that. And it's all well and good us almost sitting in our ivory towers because we've done it for so long with the tech and we sell the tech and we make the tech. These users don't always know this and the businesses don't always know this. So yes, the tech may be there, but a lot of them just don't know. They don't have a clue.
Well, Kev, a lot more of them know about it today than they did, 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
To make a quick point, in the chat, someone mentioned that the freedom of working whenever you want. If your job is to answer the phones from 3 to 4, you can't go take a walk. I mean, obviously, if you have some service job where your job is to be there at a certain time, that's an exception. But if you have a job where you can be free, it's definitely something to keep in mind. And just one more quick thing. I hate interrupting Chris, but I just want to get this out really quick. It's also frees you from the point of a team leader, of a manager. When I was a team leader of a 9 to 5 team, it was very stressful for me because I felt like I had to come up with 40 hours of work a week for each person, and if a person was idle, I felt like I'm ripping myself off, and it stressed out that person because the person is like, I have nothing to do. Am I going to get fired? Do you not need me anymore? And coming up with 40 hours of tasks, and some of it wind up being just making sure they're doing it. I mean, it was almost busy work, was so stressful and so unnatural. And now, and with a remote team, it's impossible. I can't track it has to be trust system. I'm not going to say get on video with me so I can watch you and make sure you're at chair 40 hours a week. So what I do is I just have projects. I just have tasks. Anna on my team is in charge of the website. If the website's running good, maybe some weeks she does 1 hour of work, but I know some weeks she does 80 hours of work when things go crazy. All I care is the work gets done. And for me, it's like, I don't feel like I felt like a bad boss when I was trying to keep people in these 40-hour boxes.
Yeah, checking off that box is crazy. We're all technology people here, so I'm going to ask the question regarding the plus and minus of technology. Technology obviously is a tool that we all use, but is technology the answer to culture? What I mean by that is, in this day and age right now, under the current situation, video seems to be the best way for us to have the more personal engagement. But does me putting together a box with a microphone, a speaker, right? A better microphone, a better speaker, better headset than the rest, does that automatically equal culture? Because you now have the gear. Somebody or one of the analysts said you now need to start addressing technology needs in an HR perspective, right? You can't just send people home and, hope wing it. So now people start looking towards technology to improve the situation. Is technology, or can technology be a plus to a company culture, or is it become the problem behind that as well?
I think that, and I'll be brief because I want to give everybody a chance to talk. I think that we have, for the prior 10 or 15 years, demonized the remote worker, those lazy people that we have to call them back into the office. We scapegoated them, major companies, Yahoo, HP, all the other companies were talking about it. And that was all BS. That was covering up for problems that they really had. Now that we've actually all been remote working for months, we can see the tremendous value that it provides, but we can also see the gaps that really need to be addressed. Company culture doesn't just happen because we're all connected. Company culture needs to be grown. It needs to be addressed directly. How do you have, Chris, you do your every other week, your chats, and your happy hours with everybody. How, at my company, we did a thing where everybody took a picture of where they live and what they see out their window, and the hallway chats, 15 minutes, not allowed to talk about business, you're on. You have to actually directly address culture with specific efforts. It doesn't just happen. And we learned that now that we stopped demonizing remote workers. So it's a tool like any other. The culture has to be grown from outside of it and brought in.
Tim, as a journalist, what is your perspective on this? I've now called you a journalist. Live with that. Please tell me, what is your perspective on this? Does technology help?
I disagree with your premise overall.
Well, good, because I want to get in debate with you because you're
I disagree with your premise.
In here, so me and you can go at it.
I don't think that video makes it more personal. I actually find that phone calls now are the more personal connection because it's just one-on-one. There's no video. There's no distraction. When I want to have a personal, just a very strong connection with somebody, I talk to them on the phone. Video now is what we do for business, right? It's what we do for every day. It's Danto's talked about the fact that he's been remote for 20 years. He was doing video on dial-up, for crying out loud. So this is the personal connection really is
ISDN
that
2B
phone.
plus D times 3.
Times 3. ISDN line. But yeah, that's I find that to be the more personal one, and I like David's part about having structuring things where you purposely talk about them each other, right? You make a connection. My salesperson is remote. She lives nowhere around us, right? So as does our editor. So they are both remote, and we have weekly meetings for both sales as well as just a team meeting where all 4 of us kind of get together and we all chat about everything that we each need from each other, plus what's going on in our life. So
So now, obviously, you didn't get my fax that I sent you this morning that said,
"Oh, good Lord!"
So you, sir, are not right. You're wrong. Neil, I have a question for you. Since you are the weekly video user, right? Somebody who actually puts on a show every day. You've changed your model. You weren't a video guy. You were what you were prior to this. But since obviously the lockdown, you've went more to video. How has that changed? How is your engagement, for example, with your customers, with the end users, with people that are watching? What are you seeing as somebody who recently turned on video and said, I'm just going to do this now, on a weekly basis and see where that goes? So I guess the question is now, the ball's in your court.
Interesting. I use it as a tool. I mean, I think obviously we have great technology and we've got great audio, best audio, best video. But for me, it's a tool. I used to go out and present at events. I used to be at seminars. We used to do road shows and partner events at resellers and distributors and such like. And to me, it's just a different way, a different soapbox for me to be able to go out and talk and spread the poly message. YouTube, I think, is just a great tool, and I've learned loads from Mr. Maldo, so big hats off to him for all of the stuff I've stolen for him and his ideas. And again, you do some great stuff, and I find it really difficult with all the different written platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn. I know you're really big on Twitter, and that's your thing, and I just find video so easy. The weekly show is actually a 30-minute Zoom call that we stream and record. It's a 30-minute Zoom call. Once it's done, it's out there, it lives. It's not edited, it's not produced. We kind of actually make it up about 10 minutes beforehand, normally, me and Danto. But it's just super, lucky. Yeah, if we're lucky. But it's super simple, super easy, but I hope it's quite compelling in the fact of the actual output and the message it gets across. I think one of the biggest challenges, though, is I found is building the audience. It's trying to.
Oh yeah.
I think we got a great message, and I think we got great, and it's a golden tool for all of our sales teams, all of our partners, all of our resellers. But grabbing them by the scruff of the neck and say, "Hey, watch this! This is doing this for you," and getting them to sort of share that love, I found is really difficult.
All right, let's stay on the culture and HR and that sort of stuff because we're all HR experts here.
Really?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I missed that fact too.
You missed that fax too, because that was on yesterday's. That was a telex. That wasn't a real fax. So what I want to actually ask the question is something that was brought up by the analysts. Is the best talent in your backyard still, and what's preventing people from doing that? If you are a quality, marketer, if you're a quality engineer, or if you're a quality, like I'm going after the product. The positions that really can be done from anywhere. What's preventing you from hiring? Tim, you're in St. Louis. What's what's stopping you from hiring an engineer in Alabama? Or Jason, what's preventing you guys from actually going global with and picking talent outside of the UK, outside of obviously, I guess maybe taxes? That would be a thing, in tariffs. We know about tariffs.
We've been recruiting regardless of location in the UK for 10 years now, Chris. So they haven't had to. Our team hasn't had to work near our location in the Northwest. We've always recruited on talent first. Since this began, it has crossed my mind more than once. That talent doesn't even have to be the UK anymore. And that day's coming. I do think that's coming, right? Now, surely we're going to see a day where, we'll recruit an expert regardless of country. I don't know how you'd handle all the
people have said it today, right? That the time zone was generally the worst thing about it, but nobody works 9 to 5 anymore. You can answer an email at 11 at night in the morning, at 4 in the morning. It really doesn't matter if you're that way inclined.
Jason, I was just handed this. They apparently recruited you from a place called the Midlands, and nothing ever happens in the Midlands. So I guess it works. Thank you. Thank you.
It's Boston here, Chris. It's brilliant. Everyone loves it here, mate.
For those of you watching, that's not from the UK. That was an inside joke to Mr. JP. So.
Anyway, thank you, everyone. And I guess we'll go around the horn and let's hear where we can see, find, and search out you people online, because you're all very talented, very funny, very amazing people. Some of you have great hair, others don't. Kevin. So let's start with
you remember the first bit, right?
Let's start with Mr. Neil. Neil, please, where can we find out more information about you?
Every Monday, Poly Weekly News on YouTube. Just Google Neil Poly. You'll find all kinds of weird stuff, but you'll hopefully find my YouTube channel, Twitter account, and LinkedIn account, and just come say hi and please watch some of my stuff.
Absolutely. Good. Check out Neil on YouTube and Twitter and what he's doing with the Poly Weekly News. I'm sorry I was giggling, but somebody says that Jason is from Middle Earth. So that was and that
he doesn't look like a hobbit.
What is that all about? No, where can we find out more information about you, Involve, AV Jam? And I will ask the same to your guys, so you get 3 times to put the PR on this one. Go ahead.
Awesome. So I'm at Noel on Tech on Twitter. Noel Kennedy, you can find me on LinkedIn. On other Twitter for our AV Jam crew of absolute chaos is at AV Jam UK.
Absolutely. And if you haven't listened to AV Jam, you're missing out, because you're just missing out. You're absolutely missing out, without a doubt. Mr. Talbot, where can we find out more about you and obviously AV Jam and Involve?
So Kev Talbot on, I think, wherever I am, Twitter, LinkedIn. Involve is Involve VC. AV Jam website, Twitter, LinkedIn, and I'm glad Noel said the at AV Jam UK, because I always get it wrong and I think I missed the UK and keep getting told off. So I'm glad he went first. So, with that.
Awesome. Jason, where can we find out more? Where can we find out more about you, sir?
They've done all the big stuff at JP Ward. Just to add, Kev's come up with some great ideas to start stirring the pot again. AV Jam will be back stronger, to quote Croce, soon with some good shows. Frank, I hope you're watching. We plan to record with him soon.
Ironically, Frank just popped up on the chat. Whoops.
Yeah.
Whoops. All right. Mr. Danto, the guy who, like I have said, you are always the designated bad guy and play the bad guy on these podcasts. Where can we find your grumpy self?
I actually do not play the bad guy on the podcast. I just I'm the brutally honest guy. But you can find me by Googling my name, David Danto, David J. Danto. I'm NJ David on Twitter. Obviously, go to poly.com for more poly information. Go to imcca.org for this video and all the other wonderful videos that we've been doing. And before I leave, my thanks to all of you, and specifically to Mr. Maldo for pulling off the technology for this. I think it's awesome, and I think you have an announcement too, right, Mr. Maldo, that Let's Do Video is doing something special in the near future.
Yeah, this has been so much fun that Let's Do Video is going to do a live stream next Wednesday. It's going to be Video Rocks, trying to celebrate the fact that there have been some good things this year, and video's been a big part of it. So tune into this very same YouTube channel. The best way to follow me, click that subscribe button. It's free, and when I put up a new video or do one of these live streams, you'll get a notification. Or follow me at letsdovideo.com or on Twitter at Let's Do Video.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mr. Danto, for putting this together. And you're right. You only play this on TV, but in real life, you're actually kind of an okay kind of guy. At least that's what I'm told. Mr. Albright, please give us some information about you, and you can follow Tim on Twitter at TD Albright, just because you won't do it. So please go ahead.
I'm a Gemini. Does that count as?
And you like long walks
on the beach and pina coladas. No, avnation.tv is where you'll find our stuff. A whole bunch of folks help us do that stuff, and I would say everybody but Neil has been on. No, I interviewed Neil at IST. So all of y'all have been on our channel in one way, shape, or form. So yeah, aviation.tv.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Chris Neto. I am the market manager, account manager, not account man, whatever you want to call me. I work at Starin. I am part of the Midwich group. My Twitter is Chris_Neto. That's where you find me. You can find Starin at Starin_MKG on Twitter and Starin.biz on the interwebs. Thank you all for coming by. Thank you all for the wonderful chat. We appreciate the comments, and we love the jabs and the snark and all that. And my job here was to just change it up a bit because all the smart people went ahead of me. So just to do this and to do it on a Tuesday, no less, and try to make you guys laugh at the end. Thank you so much.